One Piece. Obtain the Blade of Fire at the beginning. Chapter 21. Sengoku was silent. If you can't catch Yi Chen, the consequences will be unimaginable. Yi Chen is only 18 or 19 years old, but he already has a strength that may be comparable to that of a Kainu, or even comparable to Carp. If you give him 10, or even 20 years, there may not be anyone who will be his opponent in the future. Until that time, it will be very difficult for the Navy. It's struggling. After a moment of silence, Sengoku said, Suru, I understand what I mean, but now we have to do that. Even if we fail, we're going to do it. Yi Chen's threat is too great, he is an ambitious person, if we take advantage of his failure to do it, we will have no chance in the future. Hear that. The crane was speechless and fell silent. What Sengoku said was not wrong. Taking advantage of Yi Chen's failure to become a climate is their best opportunity. If Yi Chen is allowed to continue to develop in the future, the lowest is also a 4 emperors. This assessment is not excessive. Now Yi Chen already has a strength comparable to the 3 major generals, and he will inevitably be stronger in the future, and sooner or later he will be able to step into the level of Whitebeard and others. The 4 emperors have already given them enough headaches. If another one comes out, they won't be able to accept it. And the 4 emperors may not be the end of Yi Chen. Crane sighed. I always feel that it is not a good thing to attack Yi Chen, but since you have decided, then let's do it. This kind of thing is no longer something she can meddle in. Warring states, she can still persuade. But on the side of the 5 old stars, she doesn't have this qualification. And even if she said it, the 5 old stars won't bird her either. Located near the naval headquarters, the Chambord Islands are home to one of the world's largest mangrove trees, the Archimanic mangrove, which is formed by the fact that its roots remain exposed to the water. The island is made up of 79 trees, all numbered, each with towns and facilities, and the archipelago of 79 islands is known as the Chambord Islands. The zoning of the Chambord Islands is also very clear, based on the numbers on the trees. Numbers 1 to 29 are illegal areas such as human trafficking shops. Numbers 30 to 39 are amusement parks. Numbers 40 to 49 are sightseeing areas with souvenirs sold. Numbers 50 to 59 are shipyards with coating craftsmen. Numbers 60 to 69 are the access areas of the Navy and the government. Numbers 70 to 79 are places such as Hotel Street. The most distinctive feature of the Chambord Islands is that the roots of the Archean mangrove tree secrete a special natural resin due to respiration, which expands into bubbles due to the air and then flies into the sky. Since the bubbles are only suitable for the climate range of the mangrove trees in Yarki, once the bubbles are out of the climatic realm of the Chambord Islands, the resin components will not be able to use their full power and explode. Bubble cars, bubble Ferris wheels, houses built on bubbles. Bubble culture permeates every part of Chambord. Since it was the only way to the New World, it was home to many pirates, merchants, and bounty hunters. In the Chambord Islands also live the world aristocracy. Also known as the Draconians, they are the descendants of the 20 kings who established the huge organization of the world government 800 years ago, and they are high on weekdays, abusing their power. In order not to breathe the same air as ordinary people, they always wear masks. If anyone dares to hurt the Draconians, the admiral of the Navy headquarters will lead the army to crusade, so the injury of the Draconians is the biggest news on this island and even in the New World. If he dies, it will be even more big news that will shock the world. However, due to the power of the world government, the supremacy of the Draconians has penetrated into everyone's body, so there has been no news of the Draconians being killed for many years. At this time, above the sky of the Chambord Islands, a huge figure came from a distance, and its huge body almost covered the entire Chambord Islands. Or all shaded in the shadows. What's that? What monster? It's so big. It looks like Galio. Galio of the Crow Pirates. Yes, I heard that Galio's body shape can be adjusted, and it was comparable to a mountain at its maximum, but now it seems that it is more than that. This body is too huge. It's horrible. The major regions of the Chambord Islands. Everyone looked at the giant in the sky, their eyes widening and their faces full of horror. The giant in front of him was too big, almost bigger than the entire Chambord Islands. In a certain area, after a navy saw this scene, he immediately contacted him by phone. The Black Crow Pirates Galio has appeared in the Chambord Islands, and Yi Chen is very likely to be here. I see, you send someone to keep an eye on him, don't let them go. Single quote. Yes. Meantime, in other places, a lot of people are also in touch. Boss, we saw Galio of the Black Crow Pirates in the Chambord Islands, and Yi Chen himself should be here. Didn't he run to the Chambord Islands so quickly? Maybe it's because Galio flies, that's why it's so fast. I got it. Galio's appearance. There are some changes in the whole Chambord Islands. The interweaving of major forces. Undercurrents are surging. At this time, in a certain area, an obscene-looking man with a bubble on his head said angrily as he pointed at Galio in the sky above. With an angry face, what's going on? How dare anyone in the Chambord Islands override us? How disrespectful is that? As soon as this remark came out, the guard next to the man hurriedly explained, Lord Bals, this is Galio of the Crow Pirates, and the Crow Pirates may have come to the Chambord Islands. Hear this. Bals Saint was even more annoyed, and said in a cold voice, a pirate also dares to show off his might in the Chambord Islands, and ask the Navy to send a general to kill those guys. No one in this world can stand on our heads, as long as anyone dares to fight, they will die. Galio sailed through the air, casting him in shadows and making him feel insulted, as if he had been trampled underfoot, making him angry. As a draconian, where did he suffer such a grievance? There was such a disgrace there. Galio on his head. For Balsaint, it is a great disrespect. He was furious on the spot. Let the people below contact the Navy. Dispatch of the Admiral. Let the Admiral destroy the Crow Pirates. For him. This is just a pirate group, and as long as the Admiral makes a move, it will inevitably be destroyed. Don't doubt it, there is no need to worry. Because he does too much of this kind of thing. It's just that he doesn't know. This time around, it was far from being as simple as he thought. Chambord Islands. An area. Galio shrunk and slowly landed towards the ground. Boom. A dullness. Galio's figure fell to the ground, and the huge impact force instantly shattered the ground, and spiderweb-like cracks spread in all directions. Yi Chen got down from Galio's body. Standing on the ground, he looked around. I don't know what area this is, I have to find someone to ask. When Galio came down, he forgot to go to Area 18 with Galio. So Galio landed casually. On this, he had to find Area 18 now. Although it was a check-in in the Chambord Islands. However, you will not be able to sign in until you reach Area 18. I looked at it for a moment. Yi Chen saw a small house in the distance, a building similar to a bar. Go over there and ask. Yi Chen beckoned Galio to rush over. He couldn't be sure where it was now. I can only ask someone. A moment later, the two walked in front of the tavern and looked at the signboard on it with a strange expression, Sha Qi's extortion. Familiar with the original work, Yi Chen is no stranger to this tavern. Because this is a tavern run by Riley's wife, Sha Qi. Riley also lives here, only since the disbandment of the Roger Pirates. Riley came here to live in seclusion. It's been almost 2 decades. See this shop in front of you. Yi Chen knew the area he was in. Area 13. It's not too far from Area 18. Click. Yi Chen pushed the door in. There was a commotion from inside. Although the space of the tavern is not large, it has many customers. Welcome. Is there anything you want to drink, this guest? On the bar, a slender mature woman, probably in her 30s and 40s, smiled at Yi Chen and said. She had a cigarette between her fingers and a shallow smile on her face. Sha Qi, also known as Aunt Sha, Riley's wife. Although it was not admitted in the original book, in some small theater versions, there is indeed a hint of this. Buzz. When the guests inside saw Yi Chen and Galio, they immediately fell silent. There was silence all around. There is a sound of the needle falling. The guests inside included Navy and pirates, but none of them were well known. Lady, do you know how to get around Area 18? Yi Chen said lightly. Behind him. Galio stood behind him, like a patron saint, with a simple face but full of oppression. Hear this. Aunt Sha took out a map, handed it to Yi Chen, and said with a smile, this is the map of the Chambord Islands, you can look for it here. Yi Chen took the map, then put it away, and said, how much? This doesn't cost much, so you don't need to give money, and you can meet the famous Black Crow Yi Chen, which is enough. Thanks, by the way, if Riley is back, remember to say hello for me. As soon as this remark came out, Aunt Shaw's pupils shrank, and the cigarette in her hand suddenly fell. How did he know? Did he know Riley? But I haven't heard that guy from Riley talk about her. If not acquaintance. So how did he know? Sha-Chi was shocked in her heart. Although Riley lived in seclusion in the Chambord Islands, it was no secret. But it is only limited to some big forces knowing. Ordinary people simply don't know. The main thing is that Riley was a character 20 years ago, and most people have long forgotten about him. And Yi Chen was obviously not from that era. Normally, it is impossible to know. And the news of Riley didn't get out much. So not many people know. But Yi Chen knew. It's weird. This guy said that on purpose. But why did he say that? Aunt Shaw frowned. She couldn't understand the purpose of Yi Chen's words. When that old guy comes back, I'll have to interrogate him. Because of Yi Chen's words. It left Aunt Shaw with some thoughts, and at the same time brought some trouble to Riley. Ideographic period. Meanwhile, headquarters of the Navy. It is rare for the three major generals representing the supreme combat power of the Navy to gather in the Marshal's office. That Black Crow guy is so pompous. When I heard that they appeared, the Draconians were angry. The yellow ape crossed Erlang's legs, held his mouth, and said in a lazy tone. That guy asked Galio to cover the entire Chambord Islands. The sun was covered, everyone was shrouded in shadows, and the Draconians were also in it. With their character, they couldn't get used to this, and the Black Crow's approach was undoubtedly offensive to them. This guy has finally appeared. Akainu was expressionless and said coldly. In order to catch Yi Chen, he stopped his mission for a long time, just waiting for Yi Chen's position. Now it's finally made him wait. Marshal of the Warring States, now that the crow has appeared, what are you going to do? Just let Akainu go out, or will all of us go out? Yellow Ape teased. Akainu has the task of capturing Yi Chen. Normally just let Akainu go out, and now that the Warring States have summoned all of them, it is obvious that Akainu is not the only one to go over. Warring States pushed his glasses and said in a deep voice, this mission is not trivial. Yi Chen's strength, Carp said it, you should also know something. Originally, I was going to go out alone, but the Draconians put pressure on us to kill Yi Chen. In order not to let Yi Chen leave, I am ready to let the two of you go out. Two generals were dispatched, just to deal with a rookie pirate group. Even if they had a hunch, the yellow ape and the pheasant were a little surprised. This treatment is simply sleepless. Even Roger didn't have this treatment back then. He just went to sea and was chased by two navies. Two generals were dispatched. Hear that? The yellow ape and the pheasant suddenly became more energetic. This is no small matter. It's not that they can paddle. Two generals were dispatched. This shows the importance of the Crow Pirates. At the same time, it also represents the imperative of the world government and navy. Sengoku looked at the pheasant and the yellow ape and said, which of the two of you wants to follow the red dog? Akainu is definitely in it. After all, Akainu has been idle for a long time for Yi Chen's affairs, and if he doesn't let Akainu do it, it is estimated that with this guy's character, he will definitely be irritable. Furthermore, I was able to complete a task. Sengoku felt that Akainu had to be dispatched as well. After all, Akainu is the most powerful of the three, and he is guaranteed to make a move. As for the remaining one, it is up to the pheasant and the yellow ape to choose. It's just that the two of them are not easy to choose, and the strength of the two is not much different, and because of their ability, they each have their own advantages. The ability of the pheasant can block the surroundings so that no one else can leave. As for the yellow ape, it is fast, and few people can keep up with him with his speed. Marshal of the Warring States, let the pheasant and the red dog pass over this matter. My old bone has just returned to the headquarters, and I still need to rest for a while. Kaido's fist is not comfortable, my whole body is falling apart now. The yellow ape pursed his mouth and said lightly. He didn't have long to return to headquarters. Before that, the yellow ape was on a mission in the New World, and happened to meet Kaido, and then the two fought, and finally fought for a day and a night. The yellow ape walked away at its own speed. Although his strength is good, he still can't match it in the face of a monster like Kaido. After all, Kaido is known as the strongest creature in the sea, land and air, and he is invincible alone. Not to mention the yellow ape himself. Even Carp may not be able to defeat Kaido. Hear that? Sengoku pondered for a moment and said, "That's fine, then let the pheasant and the red dog go together." He also understands Kaido's strengths. Yellow ape has been fighting Kaido for so long, and his state is not very good, not a perfect state, and Yi Chen and they are not ordinary people, so they may have an accident because of this. Hey, that's a nuisance. Hearing that he was going to go by himself, the pheasant raised his head lazily, and his tone was not very reluctant. Although reluctant to pass. But there is no way around it. After all, the yellow ape has a reason, and he can't go if he doesn't go. HMPH, what's the trouble? It's just a little ghost. If you don't want to go, I can solve it alone. Hearing the pheasant's tone, Akainu was impatient. The two have very different personalities, a bit like their abilities. Some are incompatible. Akainu can't get used to the lazy personality of the pheasant. If only you could decide. The pheasant stretched and yawned. He didn't want to go. But the orders of the world government and the Sengoku were there. Even if he is reluctant, he will pass. And he also knew that the celestial dragons seemed to be concerned about this matter as well. With so many eyes, he couldn't even paddle lazily. You two get ready, hurry to the Chambord Islands. Be sure to get rid of the crow pirates, of course it's best if you can capture them alive. Sengoku said in a deep voice. Yes. Subsequently, the two left the office. Get ready to travel to the Chambord Islands. Watching the two leave, the yellow ape slowly got up. If there is nothing to do, I will also leave the Marshal of the Warring States. Wait a minute, the yellow ape. Warring States stopped the yellow ape, hesitated for a moment, and said, you also have to be prepared for possible accidents. The crow pirate's Galio has the ability to fly, and I'm afraid that the pheasant and Akainu may not be able to stop it. Hear that? The yellow ape looked bitter. I see. This clearly doesn't allow him to rest. I thought I would be able to rest for a while when I came back. The junction of areas 17 and 18. It's a junction, as the only access to the two areas. Quite a few people pass by here every day. At this time, Yi Chen and Galio came to the front of the passage. Looking at the sign in front of him, he smiled. It's finally here. In front of him, it's Area 18. Just go through this channel. He will be able to check in successfully and get a new check-in reward. Right now, a voice rang out. The celestial dragons are here, you guys kneel down quickly. As soon as this remark came out, the faces of passers-by who were originally walking changed drastically, and then they saw a mask-like foam in the distance. Suddenly, everyone knelt down in fear, not daring to raise their heads. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Yi Chen smacked his tongue. He didn't expect to meet the Draco people in such a place. To know, although the Draconians are often active in the Chambord Islands, they rarely come to this area. Captain, what's wrong with them? Galio asked with some puzzlement when he saw everyone kneeling. He didn't understand. Why did these guys kneel down in front of them? Is it because you are afraid of them? Yi Chen explained. A Tianlong person is coming. Captain, what are we going to do? Galio's face changed slightly. He also knows a lot about the existence of the Tianlong people. These guys aren't easy to mess with. Although they are not afraid, if they are moved, it will bring a lot of trouble. Kill them. Yi Chen shrugged. What else can I do now? You can only do it. Could it be that they really want to kneel like those people? Impossible. Why didn't those two kneel? The people next to him were a little surprised when they saw Yi Chen and Galio not kneeling for a long time. To know, in the Chambord Islands, except for a few people, the rest of the people knelt down when they saw the celestial dragons. Right now, under the stars and moons, the arrogant Tianlong people slowly walked over. Is this looking for death? Seeing that the celestial dragon people didn't even kneel. These two people seem to be members of the Black Crow Pirates. The Crow Pirates who have recently made a name for themselves. That's right, it's them. That burly, building-like creature is Galio of the Black Crow Pirates, and the young man next to him should be Yi Chen. That's a good show, no one dares to despise the Draco people. Everyone was talking in a low voice, looking at Galio and Yi Chen standing not far away, full of horror. Ignore the Draconians. Seeing that the celestial dragon people did not kneel, this was the first time they had seen it in many years. Right now, the guards of the celestial dragons came over, and when they saw Yi Chen and Galio standing, their faces suddenly changed greatly. He walked up to the front and shouted angrily, "Humble inferior, you see the holy lord of Bales kneeling." As soon as this remark came out, everyone was frightened and lowered their heads. They knew something big was coming. Provoked the Draconians, no matter who they were, they had to meet the pursuit of the admiral. At this time, Bull Saint's face darkened when he heard someone not kneeling down in front of him. Galio had just shrouded him in the shadows, which had already upset him, and now there was a person who dared to ignore their Draconians. "You untouchables dare to provoke our majesty again and again." Balshung's face turned dark, and he directly picked up the pistol on his waist and shot at Yi Chen. Boom! A dullness. In the silence, a violent gunshot rang out. Click. Galio stood in front of Yi Chen, and the bullet landed on his body, splattering a trace of sparks but leaving no trace. "Galio, get that guy here." "Yes." Gario nodded, stepping on the ground. Rumble. The ground shattered, and a terrifying body burst out. "How dare you!" The Draco guard's eyes widened, and he looked at Galio in disbelief. Someone dared to attack the celestial dragons. It's simply incredible. It hasn't been seen in years. At least since he spoke out, he hadn't heard of anyone daring to make a move against the Draconians. "You shit, go over and kill this guy." Seeing Galio's huge body, coupled with the body where bullets could not leave a trace, Balsan suddenly panicked. The whole person fell to the ground, looking terrified. In the face of death threats, anyone will change color. Let alone, this is the first time that Bals Saint has experienced a death crisis. Rumble. The guards of the Bars Saint are just some miscellaneous fish, and they can deal with ordinary people, but they are facing a strong person like Galio. Vulnerable. Under 2 or 3 punches, all the guards were crushed. "Do you know what you're doing now? Lao Su is a Tianlong man. If you move a hair with me, I will let the admiral send out the navy to kill you all." Quote. Looking at Galio's huge body, Bars scolded sharply. "Galio, he's too noisy, shut him up." Syllable. Galio slapped Bals in the face. In an instant, Bals Saint's obscene face suddenly sunken, his teeth splattered out with blood, and his whole face suddenly collapsed, becoming even more weird. Galio's strength was already great, and Bals Saint's physique was not as good as that of ordinary people, although Galio intended to control it, but it still made Bals almost die. Half of his face is gone. Rumble. The eyes of the people kneeling down widened. They couldn't believe it. Even if you were rude in the face of the Tianlong people, you still dare to fight the Tianlong people. This simply doesn't take the celestial dragon people in their eyes. In fact, Yi Chen really didn't take the Tianlong people in his eyes. The crowd trembled and trembled. My mind went blank. They witnessed a big event, something big that could sweep the whole world. There are really people who dare to do something to the world's aristocratic Tianlong people. To know for so many years, no one has ever dared to do anything to the Draconians. Even the 4 emperors were a little afraid of the Tianlong people. It's not that I'm afraid of the Draconians. It's not like they're getting into trouble because of these guys. They are not afraid of the combat power of the world government, but they also have to think about the people under their command. Once they kill the Draconians, they will be entangled by the navy or the agents of the world government, which will cause a lot of trouble for the forces under their command. At this time, with one hand, Galio lifted the Bars Saint in front of Yi Chen. Looked at the half-rotten face of the Saint of Bars, who fell into a coma. Yi Chen smiled. "Galio, find a sword, chop off this guy's limbs, and then hang him on a tree. Tell the navy and the world government that if they want to do something to me, this Draco is their fate." Good. Galio nodded, then found a sword everywhere, easily looked down at Bals's limbs, and then stabbed it directly into Bals's chest like a barbecue, and threw it towards a tree in the distance. Boom. A dullness. The sword was plunged directly into the tree, and the limbless Bals Saint hung on it. Subsequently, Yi Chen and Galio went to Area 18 accordingly. Walk through the passage of 2 zones. When stepping into the land of Area 18, an icy prompt sounded. Congratulations on the successful signing of the host. Quest reward, summon Estes. Estes. Hear the sound of the system. A smile rose at the corner of Yi Chen's mouth. This summoning mission is not easy. Estes, the female villain in The Beheading Girl, has an ability similar to that of a pheasant, but compared to the ability of a pheasant, she lacks the elementalization of natural fruits, but she is open to ability. There is no doubt about it. Estes is a little stronger. Because they have been developed to the point where they can freeze time and space. Even time has stood still. Extremely powerful. If you put it in the world of pirates, you can be a strong person with the strength of a general, plus Galio. He now has 2 strong generals. These days, he's been teaching Galio to be armed with domineering and domineering to see and hear. The effect is not bad. Is already very proficient, and may not be as strong as those senior domineering powerhouses, but it can be used completely and can be used in actual combat. Summon Estes. Seeing that there was no one around, Yi Chen whispered in his heart. Soon, a white light appeared, and a slender figure appeared. Wearing a white military uniform, with long blue hair, a delicate face, a fiery figure, and blue eyes exuding a strange light. This is a very attractive woman. Ordinary people can't take their eyes off it, and at the same time, her aura is different from that of people, with a strong edge, like a sharp weapon. Ice Queen, Estes. Estes, I've seen the master. As soon as Estes appeared, he respectfully knelt in front of Yi Chen and said respectfully. As long as it is a character summoned by the system, he will identify with Yi Chen from the bottom of his heart, and at the same time regard him as the master, and will never defect. Estes, get up. Single quote. Don't call me master, call me captain. Although it is called the host, it sounds very cool. However, for Yi Chen, the summoned characters are all his companions. He didn't really want to use words like that. Yes. Captain. Estes smiled slightly, his face was delicate, and everything was awakened, with a unique charm. It's a demon. Yi Chen sighed slightly in his heart. This woman's charm is too strong, and at the same time, her strength is also strong. I don't know who the Navy will send over this time. Hope is not a general. If there is only one, it will be meaningless. Yi Chen looked at the scene in the distance, his gaze passed through the forest, and he looked at the sea. In fact, if the Tianlong people die or not, the admiral will definitely come over. It's just that he wants to know who it is. There are a few more people. If there is only one general, it is really not enough to see. The Draconians are dead. It didn't take long. This news spread throughout the Chambord Islands in a very short time. Everyone was half frightened to death when they heard the news. Fell into a state of extreme shock. My head went blank. None of them seemed to react. At this time, Sha-Chi knocked on the bamboo. Heard that the Draconians were dead. The guests inside suddenly froze there, as if they were frozen, and the wine bottles in their hands fell directly to the ground. Then, a middle-aged pirate came back to his senses, grabbed the person who told the information, and roared, "Really, fake, how dare anyone kill the Draconians in such a place? Isn't he afraid of death? And who did it? As soon as the Draco people die, the admiral will definitely rush over, and I can't stay here anymore." The pirates panicked. As soon as the Draconians die, the Navy will inevitably send a general. And they shall suffer. Although the target is not them, they will also be picked up by the way. So hear the news. They were all dumbfounded. Someone really did something to the celestial dragons. Although many people are unhappy with the Tianlong people, they are also in their hearts, and they dare not show it on the surface. Yi Chen of the Black Crow Pirates. And after he killed the Draconian, he also cut off the limbs of the Draconian, stuck it in the trunk of the tree, and told everyone not to let the Navy do anything to him. Once he did it, the Draco would be killed. How dare this guy? Even if you kill the Tianlong people, and do such a thing, the world government will definitely not let Yi Chen go, and the Navy should come out soon to liquidate the Chambord Islands. I can't stay here, I have to get out of here. What a madman. The pirates in the tavern hurriedly packed their things. Prepared to leave the Chambord Islands. Something like this happened. The Chambord Islands are not for them to stay, so they can only leave quickly, otherwise they will all suffer. The scene inside the tavern is just a microcosm of the Chambord Islands. After hearing that the Draconians had been killed, many pirates were scared, hurriedly put down the things in his hand and prepared to leave the Chambord Islands. And the sooner the better. Once you can't leave, wait until the Navy comes. They're all going to die. Inside the tavern, looking at the tavern that had become empty, Aunt Shaw looked calm and took a slow puff of cigarette. This is. An old figure stepped out from behind. The Chambord Islands are not at peace. This little imp Yi Chen is really bold and reckless, killing the Tianlong people under the nose of the world government. Riley shook his head, sighing a little. The Chambord Islands are close to the headquarters of the Navy in the Holy Land of Marijoya. It can be said that it is under the nose of the world government. Basically, no one dares to provoke the Draconians here. Because looking at the Navy headquarters is too close. Once provoke the Draconians, the Navy can come quickly. This kind of thing, even when they reached the top, they didn't dare to do such a thing. Because there are too many troubles. This is the nest of the world government. As soon as the Draco people die, everything will be messed up. In order to appease the anger of the world government, the admiral dispatched by the Navy this time may not be one. Aunt Shaw said lightly. Is it possible to dispatch 2 generals? Riley smiled lightly. A general may not be able to stop those 2 people. Hear this. Aunt Shaw flicked the cigarette ash and said lightly, they are just pirates who have just gone to sea. Are you so confident in them? You know you've never met him before. I haven't seen it though. Riley, but in your intelligence, didn't you say that Karp values this guy very much, and thinks Yi Chen has the strength of the 3 major generals? If this information is true, a general is indeed not enough, and Yi Chen's companion is not an ordinary person. After speaking, Riley stretched and headed outside. See this scene? Aunt Shaw said lightly, Riley, you have to think clearly. Once you go over to save that kid, there will be no such peaceful days in the future. Hear this. Riley turned his head and said lightly, this kind of thing, I can participate in this kind of old bones, I just go for a walk. After speaking, Riley walked straight in. A moment later, Aunt Shaw shook her head. After so many years, my heart still hasn't calmed down. Holy Land Mary Joa. In a palatial room, 5 old men with different faces sat around a round table, and one of them, a blond old man with a dark face, shouted angrily, unforgivable, the Crow pirates must perish. Kill them all, whatever the cost. As soon as this remark came out, the other 5 old stars also had different faces, but they were all ugly in the same way. The sword-wielding 5 old stars said in a cold voice, it's been many years since I heard that the Draco people died outside, and this time they died in the Chambord Islands. This is a provocation to us in the world, and it is also a provocation to the world government. Quote, if we don't slaughter these guys this time, where is the majesty of what we are waiting for? After hearing that the Draconians died in the Chambord Islands, the 5 old stars gathered together for the first time and held a meeting. They didn't think about it. In the Chambord Islands, someone dared to attack the Draconians. They didn't think of it. The Navy did not think of it. The rest of the people didn't even think about it. Because even the 4 emperors, this kind of super pirate group standing at the apex of pirates, would not dare to do such a thing in the Chambord Islands. Because once such a thing is done, there will be an unprecedented retaliation from the world government. In the face of such retaliation, even the 4 emperors didn't dare to fight hard. As a world government that has ruled the world for 800 years, it has a heritage that ordinary people cannot imagine. The world government is not just a powerful navy. There are many hidden forces behind them. Because everyone knows what the world government is behind it. That's why everyone didn't dare to touch the Tianlong people. Because once it moves, it is equivalent to igniting the bomb. Even the 4 emperors may not be able to withstand it. The white-haired 5 old stars looked gloomy and said coldly, this kind of guy can't stay in this world. The grass must be cut and eradicated. That's right. Give an order to the warring states, let them kill these 2 guys at all costs no matter what method they use, and it is best to catch them. The Crow pirates must die. The 5 old stars talked a lot and said different things. But the consensus is that they all want the Black Crow pirates to be destroyed. Because of this matter, it has really touched their bottom line. Sengoku, who was far away at the Navy headquarters, was shocked when he received a call from the 5 old stars. He never thought about it. Someone dared to attack the Draco people in the Chambord Islands. And most importantly, it is. The person who started it was still someone he knew very well. The members of the Crow Pirates, Yi Chen and Galio, got the news. Sengoku's face suddenly sank. Don't worry, we will definitely kill them. When you're done, hang up. Then Sengoku exhaled and said to the navy outside, let Carp and Suru come over, and Admiral Yellow Ape. It didn't take long. Ha ha ha, what happened in the warring states again? Could it be that the Red Dog and they were beaten by Yi Chen? Kapu walked in laughing, and behind him was Lieutenant General Suru, and behind him was the Yellow Ape in his coat. The three came to the office. Familiar with the road, sit down on the sofa. The Yellow Ape lay on the sofa, adjusted a comfortable sitting position, and said lazily, Marshal of the warring states, is it that the two of them have already dealt with Yi Chen and them, then can I go to rest? For him, rest is the most important thing at the moment. After all, he was beaten up by Kaido. Carp, you guy. Warring States' face darkened, glared at Carp, and then said coldly to the Yellow Ape, don't think about it when you rest, something big is happening now. As soon as this remark came out, the faces of the Yellow Ape and the Crane changed slightly, but Carp was the same as before. What's the matter, Sengoku? Suru crossed his hands, placed it on the table, and asked calmly. Not so long ago, Warring States said in a deep voice, Yi Chen killed a celestial dragon man in the Chambord Islands, and he cut off the limbs of the celestial dragon man, inserted the body of the celestial dragon man into a big tree, and told us not to have any thoughts about him, otherwise this celestial dragon man will end. As soon as these words came out, the crowd changed their voices, even Carp. I was shocked by the news. The Yellow Ape's eyes widened, and he said, is this news confirmed? Marshal of the Warring States, killing the celestial dragon people in the Chambord Islands is not looking for death. Of course I'm sure, just now the news that the 5 old stars gave me, he asked us to kill Yi Chen no matter what the price. Of course, it's best to catch Yi Chen and hand it over to them. It's true to hear it. The Yellow Ape was dumbfounded. There are really people who dare to do something to the Tianlong people. Sengoku looked at the Crane and said, Crane, I said that this guy is a hidden danger. If we can't get rid of him earlier, it will inevitably become a hidden danger for us in the future. Obviously we are one step late. The Crane was silent. She also didn't expect Yi Chen to dare to do such a thing. This kid is quite powerful, he dares to do anything to that garbage. Speaking of this, Carp saw Sengoku's almost cannibalistic eyes, and immediately touched his head and laughed and said, I'm sorry, Sengoku, I forgot what I can't say. Carp, you guy. Warring States' face turned black into coal, how dare he say such a thing? Haha, don't care about Sengoku. Carp laughed out loud without caring at all, and said, it's imperative, aren't we going to deal with this kid Yi Chen? What are you going to do? Do you need us to go out? There are already 2 imps, Pheasant and Akainu. Speaking of this, Carp said, why don't you let me go? It just so happened that Yi Chen didn't let that little ghost go all out last time, and if you go over now, it is estimated that you can force out the full strength of that little ghost. You go with the Yellow Ape. Although you have wasted some combat power in the past, this matter is very important, and you can't slack off. That group of people must be dealt with. Chambord Islands. Area 18. On a street, a group of navies surrounded Yi Chen and the others. A major general in an overcoat shouted at Yi Chen gloomily and said, Yi Chen, be captured, you have been surrounded by us. Hear this. Yi Chen smiled slightly. This Rear Admiral, who gave you the courage to think that your guns are useful to us? There are very few navies around. More than 100 people. Everyone was holding a musket, and they were all aiming at Yi Chen and the others. If all at once fire. If you were an ordinary person, you would have been beaten into a sieve a long time ago. The Rear Admiral's face darkened. I admit that your strength is indeed very strong, but in the face of so many muskets, even you can't be safe. Muskets. Hear this. Yi Chen smiled, then his eyes froze, and he said coldly, where is the musket? Hear this. A bad premonition rose in the Rear Admiral's heart, and he hurriedly roared loudly, do it. Right now. Ideographic comma. A terrifying aura spread from Yi Chen's body. In a flash, the boundless aura spread and swept all around. The surrounding navy was like a lightning strike, as if it was carrying a huge stone on its back, and it was thrown to the ground and crushed to the ground. Immobile. Thump. The Rear Admiral fell to the ground, his eyes widening. Overlord color domineering. He had heard that the Overlord color domineering spirit can produce a violent spiritual shock wave, making people who are not determined to be directly unconscious. No, it's not Overlord domineering. What kind of ability is this? Gravity. Soon, the Rear Admiral noticed that something was wrong, and although the surrounding navies were down, they were all awake. It's all the same as him, but it's like a stone pressed on his back, and he can't move at all, although he can't move. But the will is still sober. And not in a coma. What kind of ability is this? Gravity. Could it be that Yi Chen is a fruit powerhouse? The Rear Admiral whispered in his heart, his eyes full of shock. He got the news as if it were done. I haven't heard of Yi Chen having this ability. Doesn't it mean that he has powers similar to fire? At this time, Yi Chen walked over. Squatting in front of the Rear Admiral, he asked, "How many admirals are there in your dispatch this time?" The Rear Admiral's eyes widened and he kept looking at Yi Chen. Looked at. Yi Chen reacted and said with a smile, "Forget, you can't speak." Said. Yi Chen came into contact with some of his pressure, although the person was still pressed there, he could speak. There are already 2 generals on the way, as long as they come over, you will have no way to escape. You're dead. The Rear Admiral snapped. 2 generals. Yi Chen smiled slightly. It seems that the Admiral values me very much. By the way, who's coming? Admiral Akayu and Admiral Pheasant. Speaking of which, the Rear Admiral said in a cold voice, I advise you to surrender quickly. These 2 admirals are not so easy to talk to. If you insist on doing so, you will definitely be killed by them. If you surrender now, say you'll still be alive. In its opinion, Pheasants and Akainu are dispatched, and no matter who they are dead. Even the 4 emperors may not be afraid. And Yi Chen, they just went to sea. Facing the 2 generals, there is no chance of winning at all. If it's them, that's great. Yi Chen smiled. Estes, you and Galio are going to deal with that pheasant. As for the red dog, to give it to me, I will personally meet this guy for a while. Hearing that he was going to join forces with Galio to deal with someone, Estes was a little reluctant and said, Captain, I can do it alone, I don't need help from others. Galio just watched. Allow yourself to watch dryly. Galio definitely disagreed, and shook his head. No, I'm going to do it too. I've been waiting for these guys for a long time. Estes, you just came, watch for the time being. Or, Captain, rest and let us deal with them. Impossible. Yi Chen decisively refused. Are you kidding? Happened to meet the general, how could it be possible to let it out? And he also plans to see if it is the temperature of the red dog that is high, or his temperature is high. These guys. The Rear Admiral next to him listened to the chat of Yi Chen and the others. His eyes widened suddenly. His face was full of horror. These guys knew that they were 2 generals, but they didn't have the slightest intention of escaping, but their fighting spirit was boiling. Not at all like a newcomer. Normally, when the newcomers heard that it was an admiral, they were all scared half to death. They are the only ones. When I saw the admiral, I was even more happy. This is a bit outrageous. He really didn't understand what to be happy about meeting the admiral. This is an almost certain death situation. At this time, Area 18. At the docks, Pheasants and Akainu land on the Chambord Islands. As soon as they stepped into Area 18, soon there was a navy coming at you. Yi Chen is there. Akainu asked in a cold voice. Hear this. One of the admirals hesitated for a moment and said, they are in front, and from what they have been told, it seems that they are deliberately staying here. Seems to be waiting for us. Hear that. A cold light appeared in Akainu's eyes, and he said in a cold voice, do you know how thick the pirates are? Give him time not to run, he is still waiting for us here, and he wants to die, then I will send him to die. After speaking, Akainu walked in, followed by Pheasant. It didn't take long. The 2 came out into the street. Inside, numerous navies lay on the ground. In the center, there are 3 people standing. Yi Chen saw the red dog and the green pheasant. Stretching his waist, he said lightly, the speed of your navy is really slow, I've been waiting for you for more than an hour. Hear this. Both the faces of the pheasant and the red dog were a little dark. Are you waiting for us? The pheasant's eyes flashed, white cold air appeared all over his body, the temperature around him could also drop, and the ground was gradually covered with a layer of frost. Draconian, you killed it on purpose. It's not intentional, It's just that I happened to meet these guys, and you also know the character of the Tianlong people, so kill them easily. Bai Yi said calmly. The corners of the pheasant's mouth twitched, and he killed the celestial dragons with his hand. What a guts! If someone else sees the draconian. It is estimated that the first reaction is to avoid the draconian, like a plague, for fear of being implicated by the draconian. Yi Chen was good, and when he saw the Tianlong people, he did it directly. Although he also knows the character of the celestial dragons, they are unscrupulous and don't take anyone seriously. With such a character, it is very simple to offend people, but because of the strength of the world government, although it has offended many people, no one dares to do anything to the Tianlong people. Yi Chen is also the first case. Hey, although I admit that those guys are not very good-tempered, and I don't really want to avenge those guys. The pheasant walked out slowly, and the temperature around him dropped suddenly, but as a general, I have to do it. I understand, isn't the general a lackey of the draconian? The owner was killed, and it is normal for the dog to take revenge. Bai Yi smiled slightly and said lightly. Hear that? The pheasant's face sank slightly, and he said in a cold voice, you look very good, but it's a pity that this mouth, if you don't have this mouth, you look perfect. There is nothing wrong with the dog of the draconian. This is something that many people know. But few people dared to say it. It is estimated that the 4 emperors dare to say it, and the rest really don't have this ability. After all, the general is standing at the top of the world. Ice Dragon. The pheasant's eyes flashed, and a cold air erupted from his body, and the cold air from the bones exploded. Rumble. In a flash, the boundless cold air condensed into frost, condensing into an ice dragon in the air, burly, hideous, lifelike, with a roaring sound, towards Yi Chen's and the others. Everywhere you go, everything is frozen, even the air. The frost condensed and condensed into ice flowers. Ice Dragon. Right now, standing beside Yi Chen, Estes showed a violent battle intent, his hands were cold, and an ice dragon longer than a pheasant came out of the air. How is this possible? See this scene. The pheasant's eyes widened, as if he had seen something incredible. He saw someone with the same abilities as him. This was something he didn't expect. Because devil fruits are unique. In the whole world, there is only one person with devil fruit ability. Rumble. The 2 ice dragons collided, erupting in a violent roar. A terrifying wave of air swept around, as if it had lifted the surroundings. Righteous Punch. Galio's figure was like a ray of light rushing out, and his huge fist was instantly covered by the armed color domineering, heading towards the pheasant's head. Galio's reminder was so huge that his fists were bigger than the pheasant alone, covering the pheasant in shadow. Ice Wall. The pheasant's eyes flashed, and he raised his hand and the cold breath bloomed. In a flash, there was a 10-meter-long ice wall on the shelf in front of him, and the fists collided, instantly shattering the ice wall, and at that moment, the pheasant's body recoiled, and instantly left Galio's attack range. These guys are out there. Pheasant's face was serious, whether it was the woman who had just used the same as him, or Galio, it gave him a lot of pressure. The strength is not weak. And doesn't it mean that Yi Chen only has one companion, Galio? The pheasant didn't understand who this person with the same ability as him was. Why is there no information before? On the other side at this point. As a result of the pheasant's move, the 2 sides began a big battle. Akainu also started directly, and the ability began to show. A cold cheer rang out. Big Spitfire. Akainu's eyes were cold, his hands turned into lava, condensed into a huge fist, and exploded towards Yi Chen. Like a volcanic eruption, the huge lava fist burst out, and it burst out of the air at an extremely fast speed. Everything is in ashes. Fire rejection. Yi Chen quickly liberated, swinging his knife and slashing forward. Endless flames rose, condensing around him into a wall of flames. Although it was only the beginning of the solution, the temperature of the flame was extremely high, and after the lava fist of the red dog touched it, just passed through one layer and was melted in an instant. The reason why Carp was able to pass through the flames before was because Yi Chen was not very proficient in the control of the flow blade Ruahuo before, and he did not deliberately adjust the temperature so he could be passed. In addition, Carp's armed color domineering has long been cultivated to the extreme, and he has the ability that ordinary people don't have. But this time has passed. Yi Chen's control of the flow blade is becoming more and more comfortable, and the temperature is naturally not comparable to before. If in the face of carp at once, carp is not so simple to walk through the wall of fire. Seeing that the big Spitfire was stopped, Akainu snorted coldly, carving insect skills. Between words, Akainu rushed over, his hands turned into lava giant hands, and he grabbed the fire rejection directly, as if he wanted to tear it apart directly. It's just that, the moment he touched, Yi Chen, who was inside, smiled slightly, and snorted coldly, burst. The ability of the flowing blade is not only about the temperature, but also the ability to control the flames and explode them. Rumble. A terrifying explosion sounded, and the entire ground was directly shattered, and the ground shook as if an earthquake had occurred. Smoke billowed up. The Akainu was blown out, flew upside down for dozens of meters, and finally crashed into a big tree in the distance. What is this guy doing with Akainu? The pheasant on the side, seeing that the red dog was repulsed, was a little dissatisfied in his heart, and he was already very reluctant in the face of the two of them. This guy can still be repelled in the face of a person, and the abilities of both sides are very similar. Even the other party's ability to go to the next level was repulsed. What is this guy doing? The pheasant was a little confused. Although Yi Chen's strength is not weak. But it's not going to be such a short time to repel the Akainu, right? It doesn't make sense. Sakazuki, seriously, this guy is no ordinary imp. The pheasant said coldly in the direction of the red dog. I know this. Akainu stood up slowly, his face expressionless, the lava rolling in all around, the intense heat burning everything, the air being incinerate, making the surroundings distorted, and it looked like the space was burned. It's not a good habit to be distracted in battle. Right now, Estes laughed, his eyes full of fanatical battle intent, and the piercing cold air in his hands rose, turning into a behemoth, and headed towards the pheasant. It had been a long time since she had experienced such a fight. Only since she got this imperial tool, no matter who she faces, she is crushed, and no one is her opponent. She can almost be called invincible, standing on top of the world. It's just that she didn't expect that after being summoned by Yi Chen, it didn't take long for her to meet an opponent whose strength was not much different from her. Facing the pheasant, the long-lost battle intent in Estes's heart instantly burned. She just wanted to enjoy the fight now. Tear the enemy from the opposite side. Crush enemies on the opposite side. I really don't want to fight someone with the same ability. The boundless cold air filled the air, and in an instant, a wall of ice appeared in front of the pheasant. Rumble. The two collided together, splintering like sharp blades and slamming into the ground. Speed magic. Power magic. Armed color domineering. Several magic arrays appeared all over Galio's body, like a bolt of lightning in the sky, and his huge palms opened, like the five-fingered mountain of the Buddha, grabbing towards the pheasant. These two guys are really tough. Look at the palm in front of you. The pheasant has a headache. One is fine. Two of him is in a bit of trouble. The strength of these two people is not weak, whether it is the person with the same ability as him, or Galio is troublesome. In particular, Galio is huge, not to mention, he is also proficient in armed color domineering, and his strength is also extremely amazing. Besides, Galio's resistance is very strong, and ordinary freezes are of no use to him, so he is casually freed by Galio. This made the pheasant very uncomfortable. Normally, he was good enough to freeze one, but he was only facing Galio. This ability is no longer valid. There are wolves in front and tigers in the back. Facing the attack of the two, the pheasant couldn't dodge at all, and was directly punched out by Galio. It has an armed and domineering existence. He couldn't use elementalization at all, and he directly took this punch. Burst. Galio's strength was too great, and the pheasant only felt that his stomach was tumbling upside down, and it was extremely uncomfortable. At the same time, he vomited blood and flew upside down. The other side, Akainu and Yi Chen opened the battle. The red dog, who had suffered a loss, did not go directly to the past, but used the characteristics of his ability to open an outlet for Yi Chen's fire rejection. The whole person rushed straight out. Heavenly Dragon. Yi Chen was not in a hurry, and waved his knife to face him. Airplanes. The flowing blade swept through the air like fire, and endless flames rose out, eventually condensing into a fiery dragon. The flames are blazing and the temperature is rising. Big Spitfire. With the previous lesson, Akainu did not dare to fight hard, and the lava in his right hand rolled into a lava pillar, bursting towards the fire dragon. Rumble. The two collide together. It was like Mars hitting the Earth, and suddenly a terrifying explosion broke out, and the deafening sound sounded all around, with a roar, rolling up air waves in all directions. The ground of the two of them directly shattered, and the falling flames and lava fell below, and the heat burned the ground black. Shout. The two bodies rushed out like lightning, fists and swords collided, and there was another violent roar. The flowing blade covered in the domineering color of the armament was like fire, flashing with a strange light, blocking the red dog in front. Akainu, your temperature is a little low. Yi Chen grinned, and the flames around him rose, reaching the extreme in an instant, directly vaporizing the lava fist of the red Inu. Evaporate that moment. Yi Chen waved, and the sword chi fused together with flames, standing on the body of the red dog. Click. Akainu hurriedly retreated, but it was too late, and the sword chi fell on his body, and a terrifying trace appeared in an instant, and blood spurted. Akainu's face suddenly darkened. Yi Chen's ability was somewhat beyond his expectations. The temperature was so high that it could evaporate his lava, which he really didn't expect. No wonder that old guy Carp gave you such a high rating. Akainu said expressionlessly, not caring about the injuries on his body at all, but the temperature of the lava on his body rose, getting higher and higher, almost burning the place around him, turning into a world of fire. Meanwhile, the crowd left behind in the streets. Seeing the battle in front of them, their eyes widened. The Crow pirates are too strong, aren't they? Not only that, but the generals are now at a disadvantage, which is unbelievable. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I really didn't believe the battle in front of me. Akainu was actually at a disadvantage in the face of Yi Chen. This guy is really a rookie pirate who has just gone to sea. No wonder the Navy gave such a high bounty at the beginning, it turned out to be reasonable. The Black Crow pirates will not die, and sooner or later they will become the Fifth Sea Emperor of the New World. What a terrifying strength. Everyone was stunned. They never thought that in the face of the two generals, this group of pirates with only 3 people would not fall behind, and even be able to occupy some advantages. The Red Dog can't help Yi Chen, and the Green Pheasant can't help Galio and Estes. The Admiral won't lose, right? Someone exclaimed. According to the situation in front of you, the two admirals, did they really have no advantage? Instead, he was pressed and beaten by the other side. Let's be honest. If it weren't for what they saw with their own eyes, they really didn't believe that the two admirals were being pressed and beaten in the face of a rookie pirate group of only 3 people. Completely at a disadvantage, without any advantages. It's unbelievable. The battle is not over yet, so I can't make a conclusion for the time being. When it's over, it's not that simple. Someone whispered. Although Yi Chen and they have an advantage now, they know very well that this is just the beginning, it is not over yet, and the result has not yet been determined. Everything is possible, let alone. The Admiral has been strong for so many years, and it is so simple there. We were right to stay. Sure enough, it's not easy for both sides. This news must be passed on to headquarters. There are a lot of people left around. Knowing that Yi Chen deliberately waited for the Navy, many people stayed. Some people simply watch the excitement. Some people have other purposes. For example, the intelligence agents of all parties, or some top-level insiders, they are all collecting intelligence. Although this is dangerous, they could be affected by the battle at any time, but that's their job. The stakes are high and the rewards are many. Now, the battle between the two sides of the battle was extremely hot. Almost all of them turned into afterimages, and every collision caused extremely terrifying destructive power. When the blazing heat fell, everything was incinerated clean, and many buildings were slowly melted down by flames or lava, and some were even directly evaporated. On the other side, a huge block of ice fell, nothing could withstand it, and it was directly crushed. The combat power of the two sides is too terrifying, it is no longer a street problem, but a problem in the 18th area. As the battle between the two sides burst out, the entire 18th area shook, as if there was a major earthquake all the time. Yi Chen and Akainu were extremely calm, and they didn't say any trash talk, and their attitudes were fierce and resolute towards their opponents. Every move and style erupts with great power, and the rolling lava will cause great damage no matter what falls into it. Not to mention Yi Chen's, the power of the flowing blade is incomparable, the temperature of the flame is terrifying, and at the same time, it also carries one after another sharp sword chi, which brings a lot of pressure to the red dog. Plus, Yi Chen is also proficient in two-color domineering, which makes Akainu feel even more troublesome. With the existence of armed color domineering, his elementalization did not dare to be easily opened, for fear of being split by Yi Chen's sword. Rumble. The two sides collided again, and the lava splattered out with flames, and the surrounding heat rose, almost incinerating everything in front of them, and at the same time, because of the ice cubes, the ice and fire blended, and the steam slowly rose, almost covering the surroundings. Due to the terrifying combat power of the two sides, Yi Chen and Akainu fought fiercely, and the battlefield was also transferred from the 18th area to the 17th area. Sector 18, on the other hand, is almost shattered, with nothing entirety in sight around it. Bang! The red dog punched the flowing blade like fire, although Yi Chen was prepared, but the huge impact force instantly knocked him out. Yi Chen stagnated in midair and slowly landed on the ground. Right now, Akainu then said, punched out, and said in a cold voice, "Boy, if you have this strength, you can only explain here today. That's what I want to say, if even you have this little bit of strength, then I'm very disappointed in the Navy." Yi Chen swung his sword, and the armed color domineering was instantly covered, and he slashed towards the red dog. Hundreds of meters of sword chi burst out of the air, bursting out with a blazing heat, cutting through the emptiness, as if cutting through space, and swept towards the red dog. The sharp sword chi was in the air, and the ground was almost cut off, revealing terrifying cracks one after another. Akainu's gaze froze, the boiling lava fell, and the palm of his hand instantly swelled, directly turning into a huge palm, which was nearly dozens of times larger than Akainu himself, like the palm of a god, and grabbed the sword chi fiercely. "I want to stop the sword chi with this. It's just that the edge of the sword chi is already terrifying, and the temperature of the flowing blade is even more amazing." The moment he touched the sword chi, he only paused for a moment, and then cut off the palm of the red dog in the middle of destroying the ancient realm. In that moment, Akainu's face changed drastically. This sword aura gave him a very dangerous feeling. If he didn't dodge quickly, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. He hurriedly discarded the lava in his arm and turned into a mass of lava, which coalesced in another place. Without the Akainu blocking, the sword chi was intimidating, almost separating the entire 17th area. The other side. At the moment when the red dog's body condensed, Yi Chen came to him in front of him with a flowing blade in his hand, and slashed towards the red dog. Looking at the sharp edges and flames in front of him, Akainu's face changed drastically, and a feeling of extreme danger surged up. Didn't think much about it. The red dog stopped in front with both hands, and the armed color was domineering and condensed. Although the abilities he uses are all devil fruit abilities, he still knows how to use abilities like armed color domineering, but he is not as proficient as Carp. Chang chang chang. The two sides collided, and sparks sputtered. Akainu was pressed underneath, his legs went straight to his knees, and the entire ground was directly shattered, and the cracks in the cobwebs went in all directions. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and the flowing blade emitted a terrifying light like a fire, and the firelight burst out with a fierce sword aura. The deafening sound resounded all around, almost throughout the Chambord Islands. At the same time, a brilliant light erupted, engulfing the entire 17th sector. Now, Riley, who was hurrying, saw the dazzling light in front of him and hurriedly quickened his pace. Thanks for watching.